After Galwan, our Prime Minister made this great statement which said that nobody has come in and nobody ever came in. And that was the clean chit for the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese had come in all the way across from Devsang to Demchok, and our Prime Minister says, na koi aaya tha, na koi aaya hua hai. Something like that, he said. See, we become tigers when it is Pakistan. In fact, my mother, God bless her, she used to say this. कि तो आप लोग तो telling me, आप लोग तो चूहा हो जाते हो चाइना के सामने, लेकिन उधर बब्बर शेर बन जाते हो पाकिस्तान के साथ, बालाकोट कर देते हो. The difference here is the Chinese are hoodwinking the Indians. The Indians are hoodwinking their own people, their parliament. Knowing Chinese track record, they are most untrustworthy. I mean, they are the greatest crooks. What they call them, wolf warriors. I think they're the greatest crooks anywhere on earth. What they are doing in Philippines or Taiwan or in India, in Africa, what you have described, but it's certainly not hunky-dory. It is not restoration of normality. It's just the first baby step has been taken. And the proof of the pudding is in eating. You have to see it on the ground. So she has not said anything about restoring peace and tranquility to the border or restoring the positions that were held. It's, again, the Indian side. Modi is talking about complete disengagement. So complete disengagement means, well, it depends how you interpret it. There's no de-escalation, there's no de-induction, there's no restoration of status quo ante. And this is absolutely astounding because Foreign Minister Jaishankar in the international fora has so damagingly vilified the Chinese for violating protocols, agreements, massing troops, and so-called attempting to alter the status quo. They actually altered the status quo. So for Chinese, it was a great slap in the face. As far as foreign policy is concerned, Prime Minister Modi has outsourced it completely to Foreign Minister Jaishankar. I mean, his trust in Jaishankar is 100%.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Now let's talk about the bilateral summit, which is happening, or rather the bilateral meeting, between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, they have already, as we are speaking, the bilateral talks have begun. And this talk is happening after 5 years on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Russia's Kazan. Now, this comes after both India and China have taken significant steps to ease the border dispute between the neighboring countries. Now, you already saw how Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had issued a statement saying that I confirm that there will be a bilateral meeting between the Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. Now, everybody is questioning on this new patrolling arrangement because according to the agreement which has been signed upon, it seems that both India and China will revert back to the patrolling arrangement, which was already existing in 2020, before the Galwan clashes happened. So, and also people are questioning that how cautious will China be, and should India believe China completely? But what is the actual situation on the ground? And in the backdrop of all what has happened, you've seen several reports of how there have been satellite images of how China has tried to encroach into the villages. It has built roads. It has built military infrastructure. So in the face of all this, will Prime Minister Modi do some plain speaking with Xi Jinping? And does this bilateral meeting have any meaning when there is so much of trust deficit? Joining me now is retired Major General of the Army, Major Ashok Mehta. Thank you, sir, so much for joining. And my first question to you is that this bilateral meeting, as we are speaking, is underway. Now, we do not know what the outcomes of the meeting would be, what the official announcements would be. But as a person who's followed things very, very closely on the ground, do you think that this bilateral meeting has any meaning when there is so much of trust deficit on both sides?
See, good evening to you. The purpose of the so-called summit, which is taking place after 5 years, is to cap this agreement, which you have talked about. So this is not the first time that India has urged Chinese troops who encroach into our territory to pull back. Most recent was in 2014. In fact, that's the time President Xi Jinping was in India for a summit meeting with Prime Minister Modi, and the Chumar intrusion had taken place, and before that, Depsang had taken place, and they would withdraw in a couple of months. Chumar also, after Xi Jinping left, they withdrew from Chumar also. They are in Ladakh. But what they did in 2020 was in nobody's playbook. We have never seen this kind of thing happen before. That in 2020, in the month of May, in the guise of bringing troops for training, and this was at the height of COVID, they had brought in troops into East Ladakh and encroached at 6 different places, what was called friction points. And those 6 intrusions, which the government doesn't call intrusions, it calls transgressions, because it's very interesting, this obfuscation by the government. I'll just come to that in a minute. But what the Chinese did was occupied almost from Depsang to Demchok, and that area at 6 places to promulgate their 1959 claim line. Now, once that had happened, that they were already there, then the rest of the story is that government of India says they fought back and they resisted the deployment. But the damage had already been done and the Galwan clash took place. So, in terms of obfuscation, 2 or 3 things had happened. Firstly, the government never admitted that these transgressions took place. Government statement then said that the Chinese PLA attempted to alter please note, the word is attempted to alter the status quo on the line of actual control, and they were thwarted, etc. After Galwan, our Prime Minister made this great statement, which said that nobody has come in and nobody ever came in. And that was a clean chit for the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese had come in all the way across from Devsang to Demchok, and our Prime Minister says, na koi aaya tha, na koi aaya hua hai, something like that, he said.
No, but Major General Mehta, I want to understand from you as to why Prime Minister Modi or the BJP government is so cagey about its dealings with China. When it comes to Pakistan, they're very jingoistic, very broad-chested, and, full of fervor that, we'll take on Pakistan. But the similar spirit is not seen when it comes to its policy towards China. Now, what do we assume? Are they helpless? They don't have guts? How does one read?
Yeah, I think that, you see, we become tigers when it is Pakistan. In fact, my mother, God bless her, she used to say this, कि तो आप लोग तो telling me, आप लोग तो चूहा हो जाते हो चाइना के सामने, लेकिन उधर बब्बर शेर बन जाते हो पाकिस्तान के साथ, बालाकोट कर देते हो. इधर the Chinese have done what they have, and why does this happen? Answer to your question, because they know they can get away with it. They have done it in the past. I gave you these 2 or 3 examples. They've done it in Doklam in 2017.
This latest disengagement agreement, what does it mean when there is so much of distrust? And what if China does it again? And we say that we have agreed to disengage. Now, what does it mean if the China moves 3 steps ahead again? Maybe after 2 weeks or maybe after a month's time?
No, but this is very interesting, your question, that the basic question about lack of trust. I mean, the biggest factor missing from this entire episode, a longish 5-year-long episode, is trust. And like I was talking about Chinese capability of putting a smoke screen. Now, if you look at the statement that was made on 21st October by our foreign secretary, followed by foreign minister, it talked about patrolling arrangements. Agreement has been reached on new patrolling arrangements between us and China, which will lead to disengagement, de-escalation and de-induction, and the situation that obtained in May 2020 that I was talking about.
Yes.
Chinese statement. Please follow the Chinese statement. The Chinese statement says 2 sides have reached a solution to relevant issues. Now, that's a very favorite word with the Chinese. Relevant issues, which God knows what it means, which China has appreciated. We have evaluated positively. That's the word they use. In the next step, Chinese are saying this, China will work with India to implement the above solution. Now, what is the solution? We don't know, because the foreign minister and foreign secretary have talked about patrolling arrangements, and foreign secretary added graziers will also be able to go along to their traditional grazing sites. So there is this difference between chalk and cheese, between what we are saying and what the Chinese are saying. And this is nothing new.
But do we assume, looking at what the Chinese statement is saying, are we to assume that both sides are hoodwinking each other? China in its own ways, and India is also hoodwinking in its own way. Both sides are putting up a smoke screen so that people
See
will exist
the
in a
difference.
make-believe world.
The difference here is the Chinese are hoodwinking the Indians. The Indians are hoodwinking their own people, their parliament. And they are, because their record is well known. I mean, from the day Galwan happened, I've quoted what the Prime Minister said. They have not allowed a single moment's debate in Parliament, right? They have not had any discussion, and anybody from the opposition who rose to ask a question would be told no questions can be entertained because this will undermine the morale of our soldiers. You are questioning the patriotism of our troops. I've never heard this logic. If I ask a question about what has happened, and therefore at that time on the MOD website, they used to put up statements and take them off because they were revealing too much. I mean, what happened at Kailash Heights in September of August 30th, August 1st, September is classic example that the Indians did a quid pro quo. What the Chinese did to us, we attempted, and we got on to the Kailash Heights, which was a brilliant Indian Army operation. It was a great military operation to tell the Chinese that, look, we can also do this.
Right.
But,
no, but
just one second, let me, if I can just complete.
Yeah, please.
But
please.
we withdrew, and nobody to date knows, like we know what happened on the Fingers area. The agreement was that the Chinese would go to Finger 8 and we would come to Finger 3. But what happened on Kailash Heights, we do not know. And why we withdrew, we do not know. So, no details were ever revealed about Kailash Heights. Again, because of, and Neelu, if you read this book, I mean, what General Narwane, who was the army chief then, has written a book called 4 Stars of Destiny, in which he reveals this incident. This is an incident of Kailash Heights, and it shows the complete confusion and chaos at the highest level of government on coordinating a military operation of such sensitivity. And they banned his book because it shows the defense minister, the prime minister, the national security advisor, the CDS in such terrible light that I would be ashamed to be any one of them.
No, but General Mehta, the thing is that this small agreement on disengagement, what they are saying is that we've taken the first step on disengagement. Now, I don't know how far they will disengage, to what extent they will disengage, but the manner in which the entire government machinery is tom-tomming this whole exercise as a big diplomatic breakthrough. Do you also see this as a very big diplomatic breakthrough? Because the military commanders, the army chief on the ground still believe that, there's a long way to go because there's so much of distrust. So what is the meaning of this bilateral meeting then?
I would have considered a masterly achievement in diplomacy by the government of India if the Chinese had made a statement endorsing what Foreign Minister Jaishankar said, and adding exactly what he said, that we will go back to positions that were held on May 20th, 2020. Knowing Chinese track record, they are most untrustworthy. I mean, they are the greatest crooks. What they call them, wolf warriors. I think they're the greatest crooks anywhere on earth. What they are doing in Philippines or Taiwan or in India, in Africa. I mean, it's what can one say? And therefore, to trust the Chinese is absolutely impossible. And I completely endorse our army chief, who said at a program recently, and he said that, look, if this agreement is what this agreement is, then we have to trust but verify. So you don't go by words, you go by deeds.
So let us
see some deeds.
General Mehta, you're making an important point. That's why I interrupted you, that you are trying to say that we should have verified first on the ground and then we should have been ready for a bilateral meeting. Is that what you're hinting at?
No, you see, that of course is not possible because they are already inside, right? They have created buffer zones on our side. In Depsang, they are 15 kilometers inside. They don't let us patrol. 26 out of the 65 patrolling sites are denied to us after these agreements. And the others are in areas where the intrusions have not taken place, right? So, this agreement that the government is claiming as an achievement can only be, the litmus test will be on the ground. Once the patrolling starts, and as I was saying earlier, or maybe I didn't mention this, that the foreign secretary and the foreign minister on 21st October, when they were asked this question, that is there going to be a withdrawal from Depsang and Demchok, the two remaining friction points, they evaded the questions. Now the media we are all presuming that if the foreign minister is talking about an end state, and the end state being 2020 restoration of status quo, then obviously Depsang and Demchok are part of it. Although the Chinese say that this is not part of the current dispute. So is this a part of it? There's no clarity. And you won't get a clarity from the bilateral summit, which is ongoing as you and I speak, simply because at that level, the leaders will talk about what the Chinese call leaders' guidance. And what Prime Minister Modi will say, the vision statement of India-China relations. So it's in broad generality.
General Mehta, as a curious journalist, what I want to know from you is that within the 40 or the 45 minutes meeting, the bilateral meeting, which is underway between Modi and Xi Jinping, will Modi even open his mouth and ask President Xi Jinping that why on earth did you intrude into our villages? Why on earth did you intrude into our territory? Give me one explanation. Can he do this kind of a plain speak? Just as I'm asking you a very candid question. Is it not possible for the Indian Prime Minister to ask Xi Jinping this question? Is it so difficult for India to ask?
Out of the 45 minutes, more than half the time is taken away by the interpreters, the translators. So the conversation is really 10-15 minutes de facto. Now, if the Prime Minister is going to ask that question, then this Prime Minister is a very brave man. If he can ask Modi, why did you do this? After all, if you are now, and a very good question, because if the agreement, as stated by the foreign minister, is eventually all this will lead to this de-induction and restoration of status quo ante. It's a damn good question. Why did you do it?
No, but will he ask?
अगर तुम्हें वापस ही जाना था तो तुमने क्यों किया?
No, but General Mehta, is Prime Minister Modi going to ask this question?
That only Prime Minister Modi will know, or Jai Shankar will know if he has advised him.
No, but what is the hesitation?
I doubt it. I doubt it.
All right.
He won't ask such.
No, but in the backdrop of all this, whatever we are talking, do you think that this kind of a bilateral meeting really has any meaning, or is it just a pretense before the global table that, okay, look, we are trying to make things look hunky-dory between India and China, whereas it's actually nothing. It's just a facade. It's an illusion. It's just a make-believe world which we are trying to project before the world.
It's a little better than what you have described, but it's certainly not hunky-dory. It is not restoration of normality. It's just the first baby step has been taken. And the proof of the pudding is in eating. You have to see it on the ground. And I can give it to you in writing, at least not in my lifetime. Is this restoration of status quo ante going to take place? Because it has taken 5 years for you to get an agreement. And that agreement, to answer part of your question, that why this agreement? Well, we were, of course, very keen for our national interest and for expanding our space of strategic autonomy. I mean, this is India's crown jewel, strategic autonomy. Now, what are we looking at? We have excellent relations with the West and the US.
Right. Okay.
We have great relations with Russia.
General Mehta, I'm interrupting you that there's breaking news. MEA has come out with a statement, and I'm just going to read it out so that you listen to it carefully, and also the viewers can listen as to what the MEA statement says. Now, China and India should properly manage differences. President Xi tells PM Modi. China and India should properly manage their differences and enhance communication and cooperation. Chinese President Xi Jinping told the Indian Prime Minister Modi. Both sides should take on their international responsibilities and set an example for the development of other emerging economies. Chinese state broadcaster CCTV cited President Xi as saying in a meeting with Modi on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. And this is the update which is just coming in right now. And the MEA statement has also come. So let me just read this out if I can just open it. 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. So Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi met with Mr. Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd of October. Now, point number 2, welcoming the recent agreement for a complete disengagement and resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas, Prime Minister Modi underscored the importance of properly handling the differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable, and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations. Then 3, this is the press release coming straight out of Kazan. Point number 3, and there are 3 points. This is the last point. The two leaders affirmed that stable, predictable, and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional and global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world. The leaders underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and long-term perspective, enhance strategic communication, and explore cooperation to address the developmental challenges. This is the press release, which is summed up in 3 points. Then some more stuff is coming in. Prime Minister Modi has also tweeted, and this is the tweet of the Prime Minister. I'm just reading it out. He says, I met President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Kazan BRICS Summit. India-China relations are important for the people of our countries and for regional and global peace and stability. Mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual sensitivity will guide the bilateral relations. It has already got 426 posts as we are speaking. Yes, your first thoughts, sir.
Well,
does the press release make any sense?
Nothing path-breaking, no path-breaking, predictable. Chinese statement is as vague can be, managing the differences and nothing else. She has not said anything about restoring peace and tranquility to the border or restoring the positions that were held. It's, again, the Indian side. Modi is talking about complete disengagement. So complete disengagement means, well, it depends how you interpret it. There's no de-escalation, there's no de-induction, there's no restoration of status quo ante. And properly manage differences, right? So this is a case of, and then of course special representatives will meet for the boundary question, and India and two biggest nations, stable relationships are very good. So Indian statement is very expansive, very effusive, looking forward. Chinese have couched it like the Chinese statement originally about we will implement the solution. God knows what the solution is.
What I want to understand, the Indian statement also has a line where they say that Prime Minister Modi underscored the importance of properly handling the differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. Now, what does that mean if the Prime Minister doesn't do any plain speaking on this? Rather than lacing the entire statement with so much of juice, with so much of words, rather than that, just do some plain speaking with him, that if you don't want the peace to be disturbed, this is point number 1, 2, 3. That is what we expect you to do. Is that such a difficult, point for Prime Minister Modi to make?
No. If I was a diplomat, I would have said those details are left to diplomats, and the diplomats have already said. We don't know what they have said because the diplomats never tell you what they say. They only give you their kind of summary of what has been presumed to be said. Now for the Prime Minister to say something more specific, I think is very important, because the Chinese excel in this art of smoke screens, vagueness, and keeping solutions keeping solutions out of reach. So and since I'm not a diplomat, I'm saying the Prime Minister ought to, he has used the word complete disengagement. He could have been a little more specific and said we should go back to the positions that existed before the present the present border was disturbed by the Chinese. It was not
No,
said.
but the very fact that the initial sentence says that welcoming the recent agreement for complete disengagement and resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. Now, this is the backdrop of what Prime Minister Modi says. Then that he underscores the importance of properly handling dispute difference. Now, how is Prime Minister Modi so sure that that China will agree for a complete disengagement and a complete resolution of the issues that arose in 2020 when they have already built so much of infrastructure on the Indian side? The Chinese president hasn't answered anything on that, and neither I think the Indian Prime Minister has asked him that please remove all your infrastructure which is there on the Indian side.
That is why the Chinese have not said anything. You see, right from the beginning of this complicated saga of intrusions in Ladakh, Chinese have never used the word restoration of tranquility, restoration of status quo. They don't use the word LAC, by the way. They use the word border, they never use LAC. And so this allows them to keep the whole issue very vague. They keep it vague, deliberately keeping it vague. For example, even now, we have no idea. Forget Devsang and Damchok, but these buffer zones, how long are these buffer zones going to remain? This current arrangement of border of patrolling, how long is this going to remain? In what time frame will this be resolved, this issue? We will work with India to implement the solution. So it is vagueness personified, which gives the Chinese the complete initiative and flexibility to change this, that, and the other between now and whenever they want.
No, but do you think that now we've not seen a Chinese statement coming so far? Maybe later on, if they come out with a statement, that's a different story. As we are speaking, there's a live press conference which is on. But do you think that the Indian government is in some sort of a hurry to project an image as if, things are all well between India and China? Do you think that the Indian Prime Minister looks like a man in hurry? Hurry for something, I don't know what.
No, we've been in one of the reasons for this agreement is the BRICS Summit. After all, when the BRICS in 2020, when this incident happened in July, and we did Kailash in August, September, in November, Wang Ji was sitting in Delhi wanting Prime Minister Modi to go to attend the BRICS Summit. So BRICS Summit, for a leader to be missing, unless he has broken his leg like Lulu, has broken something, President of Brazil is not there. So so that's one reason why the Chinese signed this. And for India, there are many reasons. 5 years is a long time. We've had troops deployed on the border in winter, 5th year. It costs a lot of money for us because of the terrain. It's much easier for the Chinese. And so that's the second reason. And the third reason is geopolitical. That we want to demonstrate to the world this great thing, this our strategic asset called strategic autonomy. That, see how it works. We have excellent relations with the US. We have excellent relations with Russia. And now we are mending relations with China. So from that geostrategic space angle also, this agreement, the framework agreement, makes sense. But finally, things only make sense once they are realized. I mean, this is India's expectation. I mean, the way Foreign Minister Jaishankar put it, he said the agreement is on patrolling, by the way. That was the patrolling agreement, which will lead to A, B, C, D, and rest, and the position that was in 2020. Like going to the moon. And in terms of finding a resolution to this problem. So it's very hopeful on the part of India to think that the Chinese will actually implement this and implement it to the satisfaction of India. After all, they'll keep you these buffer zones or demilitarized zones. Do you think, and you were saying quite rightly, that the Chinese are serious about implementing? They have invested so much of money, as you pointed out, on the infrastructure. And this is a matter of honor for the Chinese that they have come and established their 1959 claim line.
True.
Period. And if they withdraw from the 1959 claim line, then it is a masterly achievement on the part of Indian diplomacy for them to do so.
No, but General Mehta, now it's quite a while since we've been speaking, and in the middle of it, we got the MEA statement also coming in. But now coming to the last lap of our interview, some very 2-3 pinpointed questions that if you look at the MEA statement in entirety, my colleague, I think, has already sent it to you on your phone also. So if you can refer to it, you will find it on your phone as well. So what do we assume? Are we to believe that this is a big achievement when Prime Minister Modi returns? Or is he returning empty-handed by just projecting a smoke screen that, look, I have been able to set things right between India and China? So Modi returns empty-handed, or is it a big achievement for India? How do you look at it?
Well, in a sense, since he is the gentleman, honorable gentleman who said, "Na koi aaya tha, na koi aaya hua hai," that according to him, nothing happened. So for him, I don't know what kind of an achievement this is. But
no, but
as far as the diplomacy,
purely in context of what you are saying, are Modi's lies exposed on this bit? The lie which he said in 2020 that nobody has come in and nobody is there. So is that lie nailed today in a way?
Yeah, of course. It was nailed then, because nobody would believe that these negotiations, which are going on for 5 years, are happening for nothing. And where are they withdrawing? What is this disengagement, de-escalation and de-induction? Who are we asking if nothing has happened?
Right. Just 1 or 2 points which are coming out of this press briefing, which is being conducted by Foreign Secretary. He has said that India and China will take steps towards normalization of ties and convene various bilateral mechanisms to take this forward. Agreement will lead to easing of tensions at LAC. India and China will engage once again on multiple formats. Then he says that PM Modi met with Chinese President Xi Jinping 5 years after they last met. The meeting happened close on the heels of the agreement to resolve the situation at the LAC. The leaders welcomed the agreement. PM Modi underscored the importance of not allowing the differences on the boundary question to disturb peace and tranquility in the border areas. Almost a repeat of what the MEA statement says. So my final 2 questions. How do we look at this bilateral summit? Has it got some tangible outcomes, or is it just a make-believe, a sort of a smoke screen which has been put before the world and Indians as well?
Well, it's a bit of both. There is a smoke screen also, but I think the achievement is that finally the Chinese have agreed to at least publicly announce that they will
Hmm.
will go along with India to implement the solution. And this is absolutely astounding because Foreign Minister Jaishankar in the international fora has so damagingly vilified the Chinese for violating protocols, agreements, massing troops, and so-called attempting to alter the status quo. They actually altered the status quo. So for Chinese, it was a great slap in the face internationally. And what was even more astounding is the Chinese never said anything. All the Chinese said was the border issue is on one side, at one place, and bilateral relations are at one place. And we kept saying, India kept saying, no, bilateral relations cannot be normal unless the border is normal. So let us hope. You see, this is great hope, great expectation that this will happen. And if they succeed, then Jaishankar should get a Nobel Prize for in the art of diplomacy. If the Chinese actually go back to the positions of 2020, but Doklam is a damn good example. I mean, Doklam is an example where a similar agreement was held, although it was not on our territory.
Despite whatever India expects, you are saying that if the Chinese go back, then Jaishankar should get a Nobel Prize, in the art of diplomacy. But China, knowing China's moves, that one step we take forward and China takes it 3 steps back. Now, what if China again backstabs and takes some sort of a negative step again? Is it not? Can it not happen?
Is it not? Sorry?
I mean, no, I'm saying that can China not again move 3 steps back on whatever positivity is being built through the bilateral summit?
Of course. It's as clear as day that you can't trust the Chinese and that nothing is done till it is done. I mean, this is all great hope कि ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, this will lead to that. You have to understand the Chinese. And I will tell you what they have done in Doklam is a damn good testament of Chinese honesty and reliability.
So you were saying that this bilateral visit is all hope and great expectations, but nothing concrete on whether China will really step back and go back to the 2020 position.
Zero chance of that happening in the long future. And if it happens, then as I said, it's a great achievement.
So how will Modi government now project everything when he's back home? I'm sure the TV channels, I'm not watching it, but TV channels must have already started talking about big achievement. Look what Modi has done. And because people were already saying that, his image has taken a beating post 2024. So now we have elections in Maharashtra and Jharkhand. And here you have a narrative which is ready.
Yeah. I mean, these TV channels are his master's voice, all the TV channels. You can't make an exception. And therefore, they will project this as Jairam
Some heroic
Ramesh,
exercise.
yeah, the non-biological prime minister's great achievement. Only he could do it.
So you would call it the prime minister's achievement, or how would you really see it? Would you call it a prime minister's achievement?
It's the whole of government, The NSA has been very deeply involved. The foreign minister has been involved. Basically, these two, because as far as foreign policy is concerned, Prime Minister Modi has outsourced it completely to Foreign Minister Jaishankar. His trust in Jaishankar is 100%. And that is backed up by the NSA, because NSA handles the border talks. In the case of China, Wang Yi handles both the border talks as well as he's the foreign minister, so he deals with the Jaishankar. But in our case, we have two different people at two different levels. Always it's been like that. So it's a collective achievement if it sees the light of day.
Right. Always a pleasure talking to you, General Mehta. Thank you very much for joining on HW. Thank you.
Stay ahead with our cutting edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.